Thank you, worship team. Will you guys please give a round of applause to our wonderful ladies up here on stage? All right, ladies. So again, we are so glad you're here. Today we're going to be hearing from Julie McGrath. Julie is a sweet lady that I feel like I have known for a long time. Julie was one of the very first encouragers that I came across with a big hug when I walked into a room, I think probably this size, at my very first Bible study. And she said, "I'm so glad you're here." And I was like, "What's your name?" "I'm not so glad to be here. I'm a little nervous." And I will never forget that. And it's just kind of been history from there. So I'm grateful for Julie. She has, just like I said, the biggest arms, the biggest heart. And she's been a great mentor in my life. So I'm glad you're here, Julie. So a little bit about Julie. This is Julie McGrath. She has been married for 32 years to her college sweetheart, John. She has 6 children, one of them still at home. She is a senior at HCA. One of her sons is married, and she just met her first granddaughter 6 weeks ago. Julie has a passion for all things in her family, her home, and loves to be outside, preferably in the mountains. She loves authentic conversations and laughter. She has a deep love for Christ, and her relationship with him has changed her story forever. She loves being the heart of her home and just hopes to be an encouragement and cheerleader for your motherhood journey. So today, Julie is going to speak on A Wise Woman Builds Her House, cultivating a home of love, joy, and beauty, as well as a home of discipline, order, and peace for her people. So will you guys please welcome Julie McGrath to the stage?
So I might go over here. I want to be able to see you guys. Is that okay? Can I move? Is that all right? Well, I am so excited to be here. I love what Crystal said in the beginning about just whatever you had to do to get here. I can remember just like if I brushed my teeth, it was a good day. Some of the days of motherhood. So anyway, that picture of my family blesses me. That was last Thanksgiving. We had just found out that my daughter-in-law was expecting. So we met little Ella about 6 weeks ago. So anyway, we had 4 boys first, y'all, and then we had 2 girls. So that's my story, and I survived. Anyway, I'm just so happy to be here, and I'm trying to find the words. I just want to say motherhood is a privilege. It's a holy calling, and I'm so thankful for all that you're doing in your homes, little victories that go by without applause, things that you do. I just want to cheer you on in your journey, okay? So that's why I'm here. And Refresh is such a wonderful name. I hope you guys are refreshed. I hope you come often. I used to be a part of a mom's ministry too, and I tell you, I learned more from the people around me than even just from trying to minister to others. So you can learn from each other. You know, we all have different stories, and some of us have deep spiritual roots. Some of us are just brand new to the faith and trying to figure it all out. Some of us have strong-willed kids. Some of us have like little peaches that just float through life. And I'm just saying it's, but you learn from each other. So I hope you just come and do whatever you can to get here and be a part and just sharpen each other, encourage one another, be real with one another. Anyway, it's a journey that's meant to be shared if you want to do it well, I think. So, okay, a little bit about my family. I just want to say, and I'm sharing this part because I feel like we all come into motherhood with a different history, right? So I grew up with a really incredible mom, like so sweet, positive, like my mom never had a bad day. And it was genuine. She's actually one of the kindest people I've ever met. So that's my mom. That's just who she is. So what a gift, right? So I wake up on the sunny side of the street every day because that's the legacy that my mom poured into me, I think. And then my dad was definitely wonderful also, but just a go-getter, adventurer, and always had a dream to chase. And so I had that going, you know, that was kind of part of my journey too. Kind of a little bit of a princess coming into marriage, I have to be honest. My dad had retired when I was 15, so we traveled a bunch, and it was just a unique situation. But I loved it, of course. But, you know, that brought its own issues into my marriage, right? I had some edges that needed some filing, for sure. Let's see. Oh, I really didn't like babysitting all that much. Isn't that funny? Now I have 6 kids. I just was like, yeah, they're kind of needy. They're kind of messy. I don't know. So, and I got married at 23, and we got pregnant 8 months into marriage. So my whole story pretty much since college has been my family. Anyway, but I had a lot of learning to do. We did go to church, but I never really had like that spiritual relationship with Christ that was just transforming. And so I didn't really see that modeled, although I saw a lot of wonderful things modeled. I'm fiercely loyal to my family, and they are incredible people, and we've had a wonderful story together. But I do think I had a lot to learn about spiritual things. So I don't know where you are, but all that to say, when I share these things, it's because I was so hungry to learn. I was so hungry to be, a godly woman, and like, what does it look like to have a Christ-centered home and all that. So I'm going to share some of that with you, but some of it I didn't get right, and we were just talking, and I feel like I've learned to be more grace-oriented as I've grown and matured. But I brought a pretty hop to it personality into motherhood in the early days, and so anyway, we all have a mixed bag, and I just want to say your story is yours, and my story is mine. But God is writing a beautiful one, even with the hard. And I appreciate you sharing, Lydia. But we all have different seasons that are like, I cannot believe that just happened, like blindingly hard, and things you just have to work through and sometimes muddle through. And so there are seasons like that are just painful. So, but then there's seasons of great blessing too, right? Where it feels like God lifts the blanket, and it's like, whew, wow, it feels like a mountain breeze, like for a long time. So anyway, I just want to say it's wonderful to know that God is working in each of our stories. And even as I share things, one of my sayings that I love, and I put on the back sheet, but don't peek there yet because they're all really better than anything I'm going to say, or some of these sayings. But one of them is comparison is the thief of joy. So don't compare yourself to anybody, including me. Like, I feel like I still am tempted by that. Anyway, so just, be careful to know that God is working in your story and in mine. Okay, so let's just get going. So we're focusing on how a wise woman builds her home, right? And so we talked about that first question as you got here, but how can we recognize true wisdom? Okay, if you want to be a godly woman and a wise woman, you know what? I want to skip this part in the beginning. Let's go to the funny part first. I want to break the ice. Okay, so yes. All right, so you saw that pretty picture of my family. Can you put it back for a second so I can be encouraged for a second? Okay, so there's my beautiful family. Okay. However, okay, you can take it off now. I was going to share with you the McGrath bloopers reel. Okay, it's not a real reel because I'm not that technically savvy. So this is like story time, okay? I just want to share with you some things because I want to level the playing field. I just think sometimes when you see a picture like that and you think, oh, she's got it together. No, okay, not at all. So some of my funny things I just want to share with you. Hopefully you can laugh and just laugh at your own story too. But so I homeschooled my kids kind of off and on through the years. Mostly we did HCA, but we did homeschool a few years. But one of my stories is that after I homeschooled one of my children, Chris, he went to the 3rd grade, and his teacher was asking, like, who's your favorite teacher ever, and what was your favorite subject, in years past. So Chris says, my mom, and my favorite subject was The Price is Right. And of course, back then, I was a little bit more prideful. I was mortified. Like, I took myself way too seriously. So anyway, the truth is, Price is Right was after homeschooling, and it was kind of a math thing, I thought. So anyway, in my mind, but Chris, that was one of them. Okay. Oh, okay. We went to Cookout once, and my son Ryan had just gotten his permit, and there's like this little pack of like 16-year-old beautiful girls. We're all like waiting in line for a milkshake, right? And I was like, my son Ryan just got his permit. Anyway, he has never let me down with that one. Anyway, so all the girls were like, oh, that's nice. Anyway, so Ryan was mortified. Okay. Oh, there was a summer camp once at a resort we went to. So my husband and I were out boating, but we found there was like a kids program. So we put our kids in it, and they literally have stories. It was like super high windows of like, how can we escape? Like, this is like our prison. And they were like planning escape through the windows. Anyway, we left them there for like a week while we were out running around. So my kids like to tell that story. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is a sad one. Please forgive me. Don't turn me in. My son Tommy, when he was 2, after Christmas, literally pooped out a dime, a rusty dime. I have no idea when he ate it. I have no idea what happened there. And I can't even imagine him trying to get it down. I feel terrible. But anyway, 2 weeks after Christmas, or maybe a week. Anyway, out comes a dime. Terrible mother. Okay, Mount Laundrymore. I don't know about you, but we do laundry on Mondays, and we call it Mount Laundrymore, okay? So we have to gather around and do laundry. My kids have legendary stories about that with all of our baskets. We had cheese parties, meaning get the Sam's cheese and make it into little baggies. We had meat parties where you take the big hamburger meat, make it in, anyway, not really parties. My daughter Mia, my youngest, who's now a senior in high school, dropped a brick on Chris's head once off the play set. Okay, this is a really good one. So you know how the Chick-fil-A day has like a cow thing, right? We did it before it was cool. We did the very first one. My sister had told me about it, so I got my kids all dressed up in cow attire. We literally walk into the Chick-fil-A, I'll never forget, on 70, and they literally did not know what was going on. Like one guy at the front did, but the whole restaurant turned over at us and started like cackling because we were like head to toe in our cow stuff. And my kids are like prime teenagers, like 12, 10. We had cousins in town. We all went in our cows. Anyway, so my kids have died over that one. I'm like, it's really cool now. Everyone comes as a cow, right? You get a free meal. But back then, no one knew what it was. So I actually Googled it. It was 2005. 2005, we went to the very first Chick-fil-A cow day. Okay, another recent one, Mia, someone had walked in from a doctor's appointment and said, oh, I had a ward appointment. I just had to get something removed. I'm like, oh. And then I was like, Mia, I know someone else who has warts. Anyway, I cannot believe I said that, but Mia has died over that. And her friend, Quinn, tells the story so well. He's like, I know someone else who has warts. So, okay, we're looking for snow at some point, and we just found a video of this. I cannot believe we did this. We literally sledded down the stairs, like Home Alone style. We sledded on our mattresses down the stairs into like a lot of pillows, but our foyer is not even that big. So I don't know what my plan was if like someone broke their neck, but my kids remember sledding down the front steps. And then the last one was just my son, Jack, had his first kiss on a field trip, sorry to tell you. And I knew about it before he got home. So actually, there's one more. Okay, so that son, Jack, couple things. He has some legendary things at HCA. First of all, he started the Christmas sweater tradition with a friend. Thank you. Your kids love that, right? Jack started that. But he also would take the pumpkins from St. Luke's after everyone had gotten theirs. It was like November 1st. And they would like sneak out at night. They call themselves the Pumpkin Pirates and put them on top of buildings. Did anyone ever see these pumpkins? Okay, there'd be like one on top of Dunkin' Donuts, one on top of like Papa John's. I mean, it was just, they were everywhere. And I would go down the street completely like red and faced, embarrassed. But yes, one year he put them all in our yard, like a pumpkin patch, and like made a sign. Anyway, Jack's just crazy. But and then the other cute thing he did at our school was, and they did it for like a week, he talked the administration into letting the guys bring in George Foreman grills and like make bacon at lunch. So anyway, they did this for like a week, and finally Mr. Miles was like, I don't think this is a good idea. But anyway, so anyway, just to tell you all, like this is my story, and we have so many others. I mean, I was like cackling. The kids were just reminding me of things, and anyway. So just to let you know, I'm still a work in progress. I didn't get it all right, but I hope you can just laugh at your own family too, because a lot of it is just you're just not going to get it quite right. You're going to embarrass your kids, and honestly, in true true honesty, I feel like I had different seasons that were harder for me. I had a hard time in the summer with all my kids. I felt like every day was 3 days. We called it like the morning day, the day, the night day. So it was like months of summer, just so I just had a hard time with the lack of structure. I've got a lot of Mr. Rogers in me. And so, yeah, just to tell you, like some of it's just like nitty gritty, right? It's just hard. But a lot of it's sweet too. So even with this topic that I chose, I'm like, gosh, it sounds so like, hey, let's do it, make it beautiful. But, there's a lot of just regular in the midst of all that, right? So anyway, just want to encourage you. So, okay, let's go over how a wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands, the foolish one tears hers down. Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. So I've been thinking a lot about this verse because I really want to leave a legacy. I really want to be wise. And it's interesting how quickly you can destroy something that you've been building a long time. Like I feel like it's easy to sort of like neglect things that are sacred to you, to sort of forget what's most important. And so I just want to like maybe help us remember what's really going to matter in the end and be wise about our choices, be wise about our time. So true wisdom as defined by God, I love this verse, is from James, but the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. So the wisdom from above is characterized by purity, peace, mercy, and sincerity. Okay? And so I just encourage you to go after God's wisdom. I mean, isn't that a beautiful list of qualities? And so let's be wise according to what God says is wise. And I love that it's like, this is from heaven. This is the wisdom that drops down from his heart, his hand. So let's choose to be and seek to be wise according to God. And then builds. The definition of building, I looked it up. The purpose of building is growth and development. The process of building involves learning, understanding, nurturing, investing time and effort into something. So building your family takes intentionality. It takes time and consistent effort, a lot of time. It takes your emotional energy, patience, communication, working through hard things. Let me backtrack just a second, because this is some lofty things to talk about what we're building. The wise woman, aside from looking at what God says about wisdom, I think a wise woman also seeks out role models. So I just want to encourage you to be careful about who you want to be like. Like, look carefully at like who you're emulating, because we are meant for that. It's a powerful influence in our lives, like who we spend time with. What do they say? What do they prioritize? How do they spend their time, their money, all that. Just be careful to guard your heart about who are your role models. And if you have one that you admire, like, seek her out. My main mentor in terms of spiritual things was a woman named Janie Ortland. And she did a talk like this once that I went to. And I was pretty much bouncing a baby at that time. And I remember going up to her, and it was like, I felt like it was like a fourth grader coming up to a high schooler and being like, hey, can we be friends? And you know what? She said yes. So we would just walk and talk. And I really felt like it was just rich conversation, but really she was mentoring me, and I didn't even know it, which is really a beautiful way to be mentored. It was more of a friendship with an incredibly godly woman. So I'm just so grateful for her investment. I learned so much from her. So anyway, if you don't have a role model or a mentor, I encourage you to find one and really be teachable and coachable. Okay, so moving on. So what are we building here? I think when you talk about building your home, building your house, you're really talking about building people, right? We're building an atmosphere. We're building our family story and legacy. I mean, this is big stuff. But I guess I just want you to see your home as like a canvas. Like, there's only so much you can do out in the world, I think. Maybe you can make some huge wave of some kind of movement, but I think it's beautiful to know, like, your home is your canvas, and it can be as wonderful as you want it to be. And I know it's sometimes messy and often messy, and sometimes there's relationships that are really hard and people aren't getting along, and that's true, but I feel like there's also, you can work at those things. Make it a haven. Make it a safe place. I used to tell my kids, there's enough fighting out in that world. Let's be safe in our house. Let's let this be the place where you're safe. Take time to care for it. Care for your home. Some things that are super important in our house are faith, of course, being grounded in the Lord. The atmosphere, I really do like it to be, peaceful. I try to light a candle in the morning. I try to put on pretty music just for my own heart, because I've learned that does me good in terms of like the countenance on my face, so I don't look like this is all drudgery. I really want, and my kids notice, like they can see if I'm like, scraping by, or if I'm kind of like, I like being here. I want to share Christ with you on our countertop, so to speak. We really value hard work and generosity, gratitude, being thankful. We really value celebrating and nurturing the different gifts in each of our family members. And I'm really careful too, I will say, probably more so than others, and I'll tell you a little background with that, is that we guard the atmosphere of our home. We guard what comes in terms of media and movies and attitudes and friendships. We're just careful about that. We try to guard, because honestly, and like I said, I have the sweetest mom in the whole world, but she did let me watch scary movies. And this is back when like HBO just came out. And so anything past 10 o'clock was like literally horror movies. And so I have some scars from that influence. I do. I'm still a little fearful. So that's just part of my story. So my kids know I've always been strong on guard your heart, so from it flows the wellspring of life. So it's very true. What you put in is going to come out, or going to fester, or whatever. So really fill yourself with good things, whatever is true, whatever is praiseworthy. Think about these things. So anyway, I'm careful about guarding my heart. Okay, so let's talk about sacred priorities real quick. And I put a piece of paper at the end. And I'm hoping, guys, that this is just me. This is not going to be a very linear talk, I'm sorry to say. This is more, I'm just trying to share things that were helpful in our home growing up, raising my kids. But I also, if I'm here and there, just give me grace. So sacred priorities. So that actually is meant to be kind of a homework for you later. Sacred is a big word, but let's start here, okay? This comes from a time when my husband and we felt like we were totally playing the game of whack-a-mole, like all the time. And he especially, I just felt like I had a hard time getting his attention. Everything was important. Every activity was important. Every friendship was important. It just felt like everything was kind of the same. And I said, John, I'm just having a hard time. Like, I don't feel like there's even like a bow on my head on the mole. Like I'm the one mole. Like I just feel like, I feel like you're just always going after the next thing. And he can kind of be like that. I don't know about your husband, but John can be a little bit like squirrel, get very distracted. And he also is very responsive to, if he has an appointment at 10 o'clock, John McGrath will be there. So if he had someone saying at church, we have this training thing at 4 o'clock on Sunday, John's like, we got to go. You know what I mean? So there's just different things where he was very disciplined about these things. And that's wonderful. But sometimes you have to really decide what is sacred to you. And so that's where this word came up. It was like, what will matter in the end? Like, what are your priorities? What would you give your life for? Who will be at your funeral? Things like that. Like, do you want to have your kids' hearts? Do you want to have a sweet marriage that lasts? Do you want to have a heart that's like pondering God's word? I mean, these things take intentionality. And so I guess I just want to say there, I think it's super important to go off by yourself or with your husband and really just talk about what is sacred to us. Because I'm telling you, this world will come at it. This world will want to destroy your priorities. And we have an enemy who is out to destroy our beautiful story that God wants to write. So we've come back to this list. I actually still have it in my vanity, a little acronym of what we did for sacred. But I was going to share with you mine real quick. And you can do yours on your own time. But my current sacred is with the acronym. Okay, so I have a piece of paper for you you can look at later that has the word sacred at the top. And I don't know, you could just put it on your fridge later or something, or in your room, or maybe not. Maybe this isn't something that you would keep, but I have found that I need to be reminded of what's sacred to me. So my first S is to sit with God, to live in light of his love, and to live in his presence. Okay, that's the only way I'm going to bring good things to my family, is if I really have an authentic relationship with the Lord Jesus. And I love the saying that, like, we should make our home, close to his heart. So I like to just, in my mind's eye, I just see myself planted, like, close to God, okay? But sitting with him and getting to know him and how loving he is and how gracious and how good he is, even through many hard things. And I have got hard things I could tell you, and I might. The more I'm near him, the more I have an overflow of good things to offer to my family. So sit with God. That's my first S. But yours can be what you want. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be mine at all. And this is my current one. So I think it changes from year to year. My A is adore and affirm. So, and that's regarding my husband and my children. And my husband in sickness and in health. We're in a season where it's more sickness than health. But I want to adore and affirm him for the rest of my days. Like, that's sacred to me. And he would do the same for me, right? So, anyway, so my second one is adore and affirm. My C is community. So invest in the people that God puts in my path, whether it's a quick interaction at the grocery store, or whether it's someone that I'm neighbors with, or whether it's someone I'm doing small group with and life with at church. So community, like, invest and be present as best you can. Learn to listen and, like, hear what the Holy Spirit might be telling you that this person's sharing with you. Like, really be present in community. My R is to renew my mind and keep growing in the scriptures. It's also to respect my aging parents. So my parents are now 81 and 82, or 81 and 80, excuse me. And they're delightful, but they're getting older, so they have different needs. And they're a little bit more anxious. And just to be careful and to love them well where they are, it's just a tender time for them, and they're watching a lot of their friends are starting to get older. And gosh, when Jimmy Buffett passed away the other day, we would have thought it was a family friend. So it's hard, but I'm trying to just love and respect them right where they are. E, embrace new things. I'm in a season of embracing new things and rolling with the changes. I cannot believe I'm going to be an empty nester next year. I'm asking for the Lord's help here, to be honest. So embracing change is hard for me. I have a new job. I've never had a full-time job before since I had kids, and it's great. I'm enjoying it. I'm doing marketing for an office chair company. It just came up like a month ago, but it's an adjustment. I mean, we're all kind of like, adjusting to this new change, and I'm mentally preoccupied, and some of this talk may or may not have been written late at night. Not last night, but anyway, I'm just saying I'm doing my best, but I'm trying to embrace change. And then D is dig my feet into the ground. Like, there was a sweet song that I loved many years ago called My Heart Is Spoken For. And it just talks about, like, I'm taken. Okay, God is my Jesus. He's my Savior. I'm faithful to one man. I'm going to be doing my best with this story that God's given me. And so I just mean that because I think that, like I said, I think things will try to pull you away from the things you want to be committed to, no matter what, things you hold dear. And so, anyway, I hope that's an encouragement to you, and you might have your priorities kind of settled and you don't struggle with this, but I just think in our day and age when there's so much information coming at us and such a busy culture, and that this to define what's sacred to you, okay? So if you have that paper, at some point you can color all over it, you can do whatever you want, you can, but I hope that you take the time to do that exercise. And I like to go off to the mountains. Like, give me 3 hours in the mountains and I'm a new woman. So go to Blowing Rock Park and just bring your Bible or a journal or both. Bring your paper. Just think about it. Think about what's sacred to you. So anyway, take that for what it is. Okay, so my sacred priorities. So my first one is the foundation, your relationship with God. Okay. Can I have that up there too, Amy? Is that okay? Can you show me that or not? Oh, don't do it. That's good. I'm fine. Okay, so just spending time to getting to know him, pondering his ways, finding mentors. I mentioned that. Cultivate your friendship with God. And this is honestly, I have a picture, and I should have brought it. I'm so sorry I didn't. I have a picture of my grandpa looking at me when I'm like 3 years old. And he is just like adoring me. And I felt like it was just this sweet reminder of how God just loves you when you walk in the room. Like, he just thinks you're awesome. And I know we have like, oh, we got to get it right. And did we do something to displease him? We have shame and we have hard things. But just so you know, he is for you. He loves you. Like, he wants your family to thrive and be whole. He wants you to be reconciled with that person. He wants you to be holy, of course, but he wants you to find joy in that walk too. So I just want to encourage you that, like, he loves you. Okay. And this is a big one for me. So if your foundation is your relationship with God, one of my favorite sayings is, that's also kind of convicting, is children sit at the feet of their mother's heart. So just in thinking about that, just think about, where is your heart, and your kids are watching you. And so, lately I've really tried to be more in tune with that than ever with my 17-year-old in this last precious time. So Mia and we do a ton of cooking together in our kitchen. That's what she loves to do. She loves to go to Starbucks and have breakfast. And so, yes, we have a $25 breakfast together once a week. But, it's precious 30 minutes, right? And then she's got an internship right now. She's running off to youth group. She's running off to work. She's going. And she drives herself around too, so we don't have that time. So anyway, I'm just saying, but I'm taking those precious moments that I can. And we also have this little journal we're trying to do back and forth. And that's been really sweet. But, okay, one thing about that I'll say. I have so many things that I have tried and that fall by the wayside. Tried and fail. Bible study I started. Bible study I didn't quite finish. Journal thing I started with this child. Didn't quite finish. So I'm just saying, I guess I just want to be real about that. Like, keep trying these things. Like, sometimes they really stick, okay? So we do this ceremony thing with our kids at 6, 12, and 18, and that one has stuck really well. The journal thing kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes we forget where the journal went, So anyway, I want to say that too, and I want to get to that, but the systems in your home, like, we've tried so many different things about, like, how to be organized and the socks. And my kids still have a sock thing and a scissors thing. Like, they think that the world is going to run out of socks. And there's not any scissors on the planet. So they all tell me they have, like, lots of scissors and lots of socks because you could never find them in our house. So anyway, it's a thing. I guess with 6 kids, I don't know. And some of my systems were so cumbersome. Like, I just laugh at that. But we had this one that I got at the homeschooling convention that was like, you move over the chore to the next peg, and then I'm supposed to check on it and put a gem in the jar. Anyway, that thing lasted like maybe 3 days. and it was quite expensive. So anyway, I'm just saying there's things that are just like too much work. So find out what works for you. More about that in a little bit. Okay, so your relationship with your sacred priorities is first as a foundation is your relationship with God. The second one I would say is your marriage, and that's someone wisely once told me. I think it was Carrie Deliri, that like this is the relationship that's going to last. Like you have your kids for a season, but you have your marriage hopefully for life. And so anyway, just be thinking about that priority after your relationship with God. Date nights together. I used to think our date nights that we were like bonus. We were like really getting extra points, but I really think those date nights like held us together when the kids got busy and like were hard teenagers and like didn't really like us anymore for a while. I think those date nights are kind of what held us together. So I encourage you to find a way to have date nights. And if you have no money, trade with a friend. Like, do what you can to get some time alone and laugh and hold hands and make time for each other. And we've recently learned how to pray together, which has been really rich. Like, we go for walks, I think, with the ADD thing with John and just so much going on in our home. We've learned to go for walks out at the City Walk, kind of the new one, over by Geithner. Anyway, we kind of shoot the breeze the first half, and on the way home, we have taken to praying, kind of going down the line and praying for each of our kids by name, back and forth. Sometimes he'll start, sometimes I won't. He will, back and forth, and then we'll pray for our marriage, and we'll pray for each other. And that has just been sweet to see. And one of the prayers that we remember we prayed all summer was for a healthy delivery of our little grandbaby Ella. So it was just neat to see God answer that prayer, and so many others. But anyway, but learning to pray together, honestly, this probably came out of some hardship about 10 years ago. And so if you're not there at all, it's okay. And we're, like I said, we're not ones to like kneel by our bed and pray, but I journal and pray, and then we do these walks, and that's been our way of connecting in prayer. We also have a prayer ottoman that the kids have talked about. That's a sweet thing that we would pray around when they were little. But anyway, prayer is powerful, and somehow it's the means to an end. God wants us to seek him and ask for his help. Okay. So after your relationship with your husband, it's your children and your home. I really feel like, and I don't know, I know people are missionaries and they devote themselves to the gospel, and that's beautiful. But in terms of our home, I felt like ministry came after my home, because I felt like it was like the inside of my cup needed to be clean. Does that make sense? Like, if I didn't have it going on as a safe home base at home, I didn't feel like I was comfortable going out and trying to completely minister unless I was really trying to address some things at home. Okay, so that's just the priorities that have just kind of flowed from my heart over time, is just trying to make sure that I'm getting my family first. And then, and of course that's, all in the name of the Lord. But then if that's, I'm not saying perfect. I'm just saying, but I feel like if that's going pretty well, I can work from that strong home base. Does it make sense? And then minister outside our home. Okay, so let's get to some of the things I talked about. Love and discipline. So it's interesting that these kind of like are together. So some of the things that we did in our home, that I kind of asked my girls for sort of a bird's eye view about what we did to create a loving home, through the years. And Mia, I'll tell you what Mia said. I'm sorry. 6. I lost it. Okay. She said, I said, Mia, what has stayed with you? Like, what made our house loving and good for you, through the years? And she talked a lot about the kitchen, like mornings, lunches, dinners. She said it really meant a lot to her. that we always had a sweet time in the kitchen. Like I learned to somehow embrace that. And I have to tell you, again, in a spirit of honesty, I did not like my kitchen when I first got married. I was like, please don't make me go in there. I don't want to do that thing. And so then I started having kids, and then they start roaming around. They're hungry. And so I started hanging around with people that liked that. One of them was Cindy Klontz back in the day, and she loved cooking. And I was like, oh my gosh, can you please tell me about that? Like how, why? Can I have a couple recipes? So anyway, but through the years, I really have come to enjoy cooking. And she was an encouragement to me, but I needed to hear from someone that like already liked that. Do you know what I mean? So, because I wanted to I would make puppy dog eyes, do whatever I could at 4 o'clock to be like, please, let's go get pizza. Can we go on a date? So, so I had to just get over that somewhat. We still go on dates, of course, but embracing food in the kitchen was a big deal to my family. She talked about our evening routines that brought her a lot of peace at home, like bath time and story time and just sometimes having devotions. But we really tried to call that 7 to 8. I think I read somewhere that's like kind of the children's hour where you sort of like try to really be good to your family. And she also talked about, and both my girls did especially, that we had, and I think I read this in a devotional book somewhere, a time where we would empty our bucket of thoughts. And that just means we would sit down and like, what's going on? Talk about what's hard, talk about friendships, talk about anxieties, talk about that mean teacher, whatever, or someone that's, not letting you be a part of that friend group or whatever. But empty your bucket of thoughts is a great way to open up conversation with your kids. Let's just spill it. And we call it spill the tea now too. But anyway, emptying your bucket of thoughts has turned out to be a really important thing in my family. Okay, so we'll keep going. Okay, another thing that became really, really important was learning how to frame things well. So, like, there's going to be really hard things with your kids that come up, but if you can frame it around the character that they showed through that, like one of my kids, this is so ironic, he turned out to be a college athlete. But there was a season at HCA when he literally did not make 3 sports in a row. We're talking big tears. I was like out of my mind. Like I didn't call anyone. I think I did call the last coach. I'm like, can he just be the manager, please? Like, mercy. And anyway, just hard. I mean, he cried. And he watched all of his friends kind of walk across the cafeteria to get their pictures made for the different sports. And anyway, it was crushing. But I really tried to frame it well for him. And I have to say, that's one of my more proud mama moments is that the next year when he got the call that he did make it, he said, Mom, can we pray for the other kids that are getting the bad call? So yeah, just so sweet. But I really tried to not be like, this isn't fair. They're so wrong. Just to try to frame his character like it's going to be okay. Let's weather this together. So anyway, just do your best to frame things well. Moms have a lot of influence about what is important, and they're going to be hurt, and they're going to feel wronged, and they're going to feel left out. But if you can frame it well about taking the high road, about how much you love them being home right now. And sometimes I would say to my kids when they were going through things in high school, I was like, I loved my parents in high school. Like, we watched the Cosby Show. We kind of hung out, and like, I loved my dad and my mom. I don't know. I just tried to be like, it's okay to not feel like you're always like the happening one. So anyway, frame things well for your kids. Okay. Gosh, loving them well. I would say holiday traditions turned out to be super important to my family, from Christmas pajamas to looking at Christmas lights to getting our tree. We have a gingerbread house contest each year, which is actually pretty fun. We actually got a trophy last year and gave it out. My kids just love all that, but that's part of creating a home of love, right? With intentionality is these traditions that sort of anchor your family. And some of you might love that, and some of you might get overwhelmed by that, but it could just be something small that you do. Like, my mom didn't do much, but she's the one that planted that in me, where literally on Valentine's Day, I think she would do like a little heart of like Red Hots on the plate. But I was like, oh. So anyway, obviously I've taken that to a new level. But she tried, and it was like really precious to me, you know. So now it feels we've got all this Pinterest, so but now we're like over the top, right? So, but anyway, all those things really do help to make your haven and help to make your home sparkle. Picnic days in the mountains. So the reason I think this loving part goes well with discipline is because I always have dreams. I'm sure you do too about things you want to do with your families, right? Like having a picnic in the mountains, right? I don't know, but that sounds so wonderful to me. We're going to lay on a blanket. It's going to be great. But I had to learn to figure that one out. And like how to make some food and like get everybody there and like out the door, not past before 1 o'clock, you know, like we had to get out early. So backing that up, the discipline part comes in. I had to learn, like our car was always like a disaster. I called it like my big purse wreck and my car wreck. And one of my funny memories, when I was first, had like 2 little boys, and we went to this big Baptist church in Tampa, and we never could see the pastor. He was like kind of a celebrity pastor. You know, he just wasn't someone you really talked to. Well, somehow I went by the office, and here he comes. And my van door's open, my boys are in the car, and I'm like, hi, Pastor Ken, just like trying to, you know, so nice to see you, just being friendly. And I don't think he'd ever talked to me. Anyway, he looks in my minivan, and he's like, wow, you could live for a while in here if you got stranded. I mean, there were like French fries and goldfish and like all this stuff everywhere, crumbs and like smashed up juice boxes, and I don't even know. But I made a change after that. It was really embarrassing, but and I'm sure he meant well, but I was mortified, of course. So that's when I kind of started, I'm going to vacuum my car on Friday mornings. Like every Friday morning, I faithfully vacuum my car. And you know what? It's been a game changer because, you know, when your car's a mess, you start to think, I'm going to rethink my life. This is terrible. We have to change. We have to move. And then you go wash your car and you're like, I'm good. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Anyway, so I just want to say, figure out the disciplines to get yourself ready so that you can have those loving, wonderful moments like a picnic in the mountain. And I learned I like to bring the strawberries, some chips, and we're going to Subway on the way. I don't want to make the sandwiches. So that was my thing, you know what I mean? And then we go kill ones after and get ice cream. But I learned my little systems. So I just want to say, figure out your discipline so that you can also like enjoy the wonderful parts of your story. Oh, this is cute. This is a good one for fall. So another fun thing we did that was a sweet memory for my kids is we would have catch a leaf for $1. So now it's 1 leaf per month. So you can't like catch 10 leaves. But that was a huge thing to my kids when they were little, was like if you caught a leaf falling from the air and you could get $1. So that was a thing we still do in the fall. And if you caught it in the car, like on your way, it was like $5. So that was a thing. Okay. Also, family nights, like playing games and such. Our family didn't do too well with that, okay? We started fighting. We're pretty competitive, and it wasn't fun. But we are really good with a ball outside. Like, our family's great with, like, home run derby and, like, soccer tennis and, like, pickleball. Give me a ball. You know, anything that's in a field, maybe because I had 4 boys in a row first, probably. Anyway, not to be that way, but I do think that somehow we did not do well with the game night. So if you're a game night family, I'm so in awe of you. I think that's great, but we found ourselves like fighting. So, but we did do movie night really well. And I'll talk about that in the joy section. Okay, so the order part, I talked about this. Find systems that work for your house. Like, don't worry if things don't work for you, like the little chore chart thing that I bought. Okay, toss it. Start over. One that did work for us in the summertime especially was I kind of had little slips of paper with different jobs the kids could do, and first come, first serve. So they were on the counter, and if you got sweep, you got sweep. If you got clean the toilets, that's what you got. So my kids were like up early and on it. So that worked for us. Quiet time in the afternoons worked for us. That order, that rhythm of life, 1 to 3. I was like that. Remember I talked about the summer days, like there's the morning day, there's the day, there's the night day. So partly during the day, 1 to 3, I would just be like, listen, I'm shutting down. You guys go have some quiet time somewhere, and preferably without your screens. But if you have to have screens, it's fine. But 1 to 3 was like, give me some space. And then I'll be good in the afternoon, but I can't do this all day. So finding rhythms, those disciplines and orders can really help you with your family. Try to have a clutter-free house if you can. Like, find ways to toss stuff. Anything my kids' hands have touched, I have to say, is in a box somewhere, because I have a really hard time if they'd made it. But I do try to toss things more often. Anyway. Is that helpful? I hope that's helpful. I have no idea how much time I have left. Am I fine? Okay. Now let's move on to beauty and peace. Okay? Is that right? Okay, so beauty. Okay, some of these overlap. So I just said create a haven. I do like to think about my home as a canvas. Like, I can make it as wonderful as I want. And my husband actually said this once when we were first married. I was kind of in the doldrums with work. And he said, you know, Julie, I think there's a limit to how much joy you can find in your work. Like, I think that you can find some, and it can be great. He said, but your home and your personal life, that's where we have, like, we can do whatever. The sky's the limit. We can ask God to make it this amazing thing. So I always clung to that because it was in my control, I think. I'm like, okay, well, then let's do it up here. So anyway. Make an effort with dinner. If you hate it, find someone that loves it and try to learn from her. I do like to have soft music in the kitchen, and I do like to light a candle. I do like to kind of pull out some seasonal things, not a ton, but my kids know the fall things are going to come out. The spring stuff's going to come out. I really do try to incorporate help me with that. Like Mia's got some rotting bananas on our counter, and she cannot wait to make banana bread today after school. So there's sweet things that we do, but that takes intentionality. So anyway, but what you're doing when you create this haven is you're really trying to create a place where your people are like safe and emotionally cared for, and have a place where they can recharge, all those things. Okay. So, let's see, 8. Peace. Okay, peace. Let's just talk a little bit about our relationships. So it's important, I think, to figure out a way to build a home that it fosters forgiveness, like a culture of giving each other grace. We've talked about this. But I think sometimes when you have sort of a relationship between one of your children that's in a rut, I think there's times to really address that. And so one of my stories that I do like to tell is about my son, one of my sons who became a balloon popper for a season. Like, everything my daughter did was like wrong. And like, he was just mean about it. Like, she'd be like, I'm going to go get the mail. He's like, oh, we already got it. I mean, just like silly things that everything she said was like this jab of like, no, you can't do that, or you're mean, or whatever, and or you're not good enough. And it was like he was like smacking her all the time, and it was just a terrible rut. So I finally was like, I'm enough with the balloon popper. You cannot have this friendship if it's going to stay in this place. And I had him like start to serve her, like make her bed, write her a little note. I mean, I had to completely turn that ship around. So that was just I asked the Lord for wisdom, but that was just, I felt like he helped me to find a way to sort of completely change the dynamic of that relationship. And, you know, sometimes haven't you been in a place where you're in a rut with someone and you're just like, this isn't good or whatever, but you have to do whatever you can to like shake it up and like ask the Lord to bring healing. And now those two are the best of friends. Like we started calling them Gary and Gerda Yiggles from Spy Kids, because they just laugh all the time. But that was a time when we were really trying to seek peace between two of our kids. Teach your people about grace and giving forgiveness. one thing I think I really have learned is to be more authentic with my kids. I think that they would have had an easier story had I been a little bit more open about my broken story coming into marriage and family. And I think what happens is you have your little children and you have all this wonderful Christian community, and you think, let's just keep them safe. They don't really need to know the dark side. They don't need to know the mistakes that I made. But you know what? Now that my kids are grown, I wish I would have been a little bit more real with some of the hard. I'm not saying you have to pull them all through the whole thing, but little things about choices that you made when it's age appropriate, I think would have helped my kids be more realistic about their own sin. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm just encouraging you from that perspective. To be honest with you, of my 6 children and my one precious daughter-in-law, 5 of them are good with the Lord and 2 of them aren't so sure. They're not away from him, but they're just kind of on the back burner. He's on the back burner for sure. It's not, so that's been hard. And I think part of it was because I wanted it to be just all, roses and sweetness and it's going to be great. And then they failed or they were hurt by church, or they were hurt by friends, or they were hurt by a relationship. One of my sons is divorced, and that was super painful. But I think he felt like he failed the planet. He failed God, he failed us, and it's not true. But I think I've learned to just walk in grace with him and to be more open about my own struggles. And so, anyway, I just think as you build that home and you're trying to have peace and you're trying to have good relationships, I do think it's important to share your own brokenness and ask your kids for forgiveness, right? I think that's one healthy thing about our time is that my parents, it was almost like a next generation thing. Like we don't really do that. But I think I've learned to go to my kids and say, hey, I'm sorry that I was pretty harsh with you when you were 12 or whatever. Things that come to my mind, I'll just kind of revisit and say, I was trying to figure it out. You're my first one. And I just think it's very healing when you can be real about that stuff. So, in closing, I really hope you do your sacred homework. Really, what time is it? 11:01, we're okay? Okay. I do want to go over some of these little last, my favorite scriptures and thoughts about motherhood, if you could look at that, because I want to kind of explain a couple of them too. So my very first verse about motherhood, my very favorite one, is he tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those who have young. That's from Isaiah 40:11. And I love to think that, God led me when I had my little people at home, and he'll lead you too. He gently leads those that have young. But that takes spending time with him and tuning into his heart and getting to know him and his word. And that's why you're here too. So you are doing it. And then, of course, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. And just to think of your children as your heritage, and they're a reward from him. I think a lot of our society doesn't celebrate children as a reward anymore, and that's such a shame. They're such a gift, and they're such a blessing. They are a lot of hard work, and they're really hard when they're teenagers, I'll be honest. But they're a gift, and, we can learn and grow alongside of them as the Lord refines us through their upbringing. Okay, so some of my favorite sayings here. I shared this one. Children sit at the feet of their mother's heart. My mentor, Janie Ortland, said, it takes a strong woman to be content within the 4 walls of her home. And I wanted to explain that one a little bit. I'm not against working women at all, or I think that's wonderful, and I think we girls need to give each other latitude to figure this thing out, and I think that's not what this is about. But it is about embracing the domestic thing, like me in the kitchen, right? Learning instead of saying that's not for me, or embracing just those summer days that were long. Like, how can I figure this out without pulling my hair out? So I just think that contentment is a beautiful thing if you can say, Lord, I'm going to live for your smile and your approval rather than the world's. And then she also said, you're going to give your freshest energies to something. Choose wisely. This is just a quote in general that I love. People notice the lightest touch of grace. And I think that that's just kind of speaking about, people know when you're giving them the benefit of the doubt and kindness. So people notice the lightest touch of grace. That one's like written on my soul. Never suppress a generous thought. If you want to tell someone they're wonderful and encourage them, tell them right then. People need encouragement. This world is like dying from lack of it. Comparison is the thief of joy. I mentioned that one. Your story is what God's writing with you, and mine is mine. Home is where our story begins. This is also kind of a concept from Janet. You can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And I also think about the verse that says, the kindness of the Lord leads to repentance. So I do think that I've learned to more train my kids with love rather than the stick, so to speak. Not that there isn't a place for discipline, there is. But I think if you can err on the side of saying yes whenever you can, I think that can build bridges between you and your children. And then I love this one. Home is the nicest word there is. Laura Ingalls Wilder. And to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. And I've often found that with my children. Being a parent, you're their universe. So you're the one teaching them and influencing them. And I take that to heart. And I want to say right now, I did not get it all right. And I've had some things I've had to make right with my kids, especially my first couple. Okay? Seems like I became more like a grandma toward the end. It's because I was like, you know what? I don't know. I'm just more grace-oriented. I am. I've seen a lot of life. I want to win their hearts. I want to, I want them to love the Lord more than anything and not to do it my way exactly. But anyway, so just if you have to make it right with one of your kids, do so. Children are not a distraction from more important work. They are the most important work. C.S. Lewis. And this is one I found recently, but it's always springtime in the heart that loves God. And I thought that was just a beautiful picture of just, that fountain that overflows when you love the Lord and you're right with Him and feeling like you know Him well. It's just like this fountain. So I don't know. That's the biggest treasure I can give you is get time with Him. He's so wonderful, and He loves you, and He loves your story and your family, and He's for you. And so my closing thought is just this, and I hope I said it okay. All I've really learned in my years of mothering is the importance of walking closely with God so I can offer the beauty of who He is to my family. I consistently pray for each of them, for their well-being, and for a deeper love for Him and His truth, even as I have come to accept them right where they are. I cry out for wisdom in moments of uncertainty and hope to leave a legacy of love, family, fun and laughter, generosity, and most of all, authentic, grace-filled faith in Jesus Christ. So, thank you all for listening, and that's it.
Thank you, Julie. All right, ladies, so we have a couple things. We have a couple announcement slides. Julie, thank you again for that talk. I wrote down a couple things that I enjoyed and that really touched me, was just this legacy. What are we doing? What are we leaving? How are we loving our people well through our legacy? When we're gone, whether that be many years from now or whether that be tomorrow, what is our legacy? That's the only thing that we leave here on this earth, is how well or how bad we're living our lives. So our legacy, and that's a lot of that is our people. That's our little people, our big people, our husbands, how we serve, how we love, and what's left when we're gone. So I like that. Who do you want at your funeral? I like that too, Julie. That was sweet. And then what is sacred to us? That love acronym. I loved that. That is so cool. And I'm a visual person. And I wrote that out. I'm going to highlight, I'll draw and color and make it all pretty, and that will go on the mirror at home. That is good stuff. And I like that your acronym changes. I like that right now, that season, those words might not be the same, and that's okay. Or it might not be the same for us versus what her acronym is, and I like that she explained that to us. And children sit at the feet of their mother's heart. Whoo, that one hit me hard. So where is my heart? Where are my intentions? Where my disciplines, where that's going to overflow through my heart in my words and my actions, and that's where my kids are sitting. So I liked that. Thank you for that. I have a really funny story about that journal thing. So that's been a big fail in our home. So I have 2 boys. Most of you guys know that, and I have a middle schooler who is just making me have some very large gray hairs very early in life, and it has not been very easy lately. And so I thought, I need him to talk to me, and these boys do not talk to me unless they're hungry or they need something or they need money. And so I really need him to talk to me, to tell me his problems and tell me what's going on, and empty your thought bucket. I'm going to put that one in my pocket. That is so good. Josiah, I need you to empty your thought bucket. So I thought, I'm gonna journal. We'll journal. I like to write. I like to write down my prayers a lot. So I was like, Josiah, I need you to tell me what's on your heart right now. And he was like, I don't want to talk to you. That's great. I don't want to talk to you, but I want you to write it out. So he wrote, I don't know why you're so mean to me. And that's all he wrote. I don't know why you're so mean to me. And I was like, this is not what I wanted you to write. I wanted you to tell me I'm the best mom in the world, and that you love me so much, and you're so stupid for the things that you do and you can't help it. So I wrote back this big, long, I love that, how God made you, and I love, even though these times right now are hard, and, I wrote all this good stuff, and so I gave it back to him, and he was like, oh, okay, thanks. And I was like, no, I need you to write back. He was like, you want me to keep doing this? You want this, you expect me to keep doing this? I'm like, I mean, you don't have to, but I would really like for you to. He's like, okay, I will. So then the next one he wrote was, I really didn't like the way you had your hair the other day. It was kind of embarrassing to me when you came to school. I was like, okay, this is not working. This is not working. So we put the journal away. We lost it. I was like, I haven't found that journal really. But anyway, so again, what works for you, what might not work for me, we'll pick it back up, whatever. We're working through that journal thing. So I'm going to use that empty your thought bucket. That is good. That may get him talking. Probably not. And yes, he totally had his first kiss the other day, and I found out about it before he told me. So it was great. It was great. So anyway, Julie, thank you again for all that fun stuff. And again, guys, take what Julie shared with us with a grain of salt. Again, some things may work for you, some things may not. Don't stress about it. Just figure out what A, you need to work on, and what B will work best for your people. And that's okay. So again, thank you for sharing. All right, girls, a couple things. We have coming up at our church, we have a retreat, a women's retreat. A lot of the ladies here in this room are registered. If you are not, it is A-okay, but registration is closing really soon, and there are very few rooms available. The women's retreat at our church is October 6th through the 8th. It's the very first weekend in October. It's at the Catholic Conference Center. We have Robin Parrish is going to be our speaker. And then we also have breakout speakers who are going to talk on spiritual disciplines. So it's a whole bunch of fun. If sneaking away for a weekend is not in your calendar, that is okay. You guys have littles. I get it. You can take your littles with you. Y'all can make it work. Or you can just come for a little time. You don't have to stay for the whole weekend. You can come for just Friday night. You can come for just Saturday. You can stay the whole weekend, Friday through Sunday, whatever you want to do. It's whatever works best for you guys. There will be worship. Lydia will be there leading worship. Jennifer Julia is our women's ministry person. If you guys have any questions, ask her. But there's also a flyer on the back table with a QR code that will take you straight to this retreat information. Okay. So again, women's retreat, October 6th through 8th. The registration ends really soon. So if you're not signed up, Katie Elder, are you signed up yet? Yes, Katie did it. I'm just kidding, Katie. I love you. Registration ends Sunday. So if you are thinking about coming, please register. We would love to have you. Love to have you. So the next thing we have is yoga. We are doing a free yoga class in the Mitchell House. Is that where yoga's at? Anybody know? Potts House. Okay, Mitchell House is over there. Potts House is right beside of it. So it's a yoga class here on Thursdays. It'll be tomorrow. All you need to do is just bring your mat. You don't have to sign up. It doesn't cost anything. If you are a very seasoned yogi or if you're brand new at it, like me, I giggle the whole time, it's still really good for you, and it's here, and it's free. So bring a friend. Come for yoga tomorrow at 9:30. Is that what time it starts? 9? Sorry, I don't know. Date night. Date night is coming soon. Date night with our Jennifer and her husband. So date night will be Thursday, September 21st. So Julie spoke on date night and how important it is to have date night. So we offer date night here at church, and it's really cool. You drop your kids off in childcare. They feed them. They love them. You go to the alt house room and have a small talk. Jennifer and her husband will talk on, what are you guys speaking on, Jennifer? Sorry. Communication. Really listening. How to communicate with your husband, how to listen to him, how to encourage him to listen to you. But anyway, it's just a really quick talk. Then after you hear their talk, you get to go and have a date. You leave church, you can stay here, you can walk around, you can go to your car, you can go home, whatever you want to do. Don't forget you have kids in childcare, though. You do need to come get them. But just enjoy just a small amount of time with your husband. Again, we all know how important it is to make time for our spouses, but we can't enjoy that time if we don't make that time. So we offer a free date night. So sign up for that if you need childcare, and that is Thursday, September 21st. So then we have Connect. How do you connect around our church? How do you figure out what's going on at church? There's a QR code that takes you right to the women's ministry, or just how to connect around church. Taylor York has updated all of our social media. We are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, women's ministry. That's part of our women's retreat, part of our Bible studies. There's all kinds of ways to connect. And the awesome thing about Corinth, just like before I became a member here, I was driving by and saw a sign for Refresh and was like, I think that looks like what I need in my life. And I just happened to fall upon Refresh and all those wonderful women, and it's been history from there. But there's tons of ways that you can connect at this church. Again, our motto at Refresh is belong, be encouraged, and be equipped. So we just want you to belong somewhere, whether that be in Refresh, that meets once a month, whether that be in Bible study, whether that be at the women's retreat, wherever that is, we just want you to belong. So it is also not too late to join our Wednesday morning Bible study. One of our leaders is Tiffany Whiteman, and she's just going to share a little bit about our Bible study that we're doing Wednesday mornings for the study of Ruth.
I wasn't going to come up, but I'm not good at being loud. Anyway, so 5 years ago, I joined this Bible study, and it's just really been a great way for me to grow in my walk with the Lord. I mean, the truths that I have learned have really stuck with me and come to me again and again, even that things I studied years ago. So it's really been a great place. It's been a great place to be real with other ladies. I feel like it's, the relationships have been really sweet. We pray for one another. And so it's a Wednesday morning study in the Mitchell House Sunroom. I'm one of the leaders, along with Jennifer Doralia and Jeannie Elkins. Actually, if y'all would raise your hand. But yeah, it's not too late to join. We're studying the book of Ruth, with Kelly Minter, her study. And so, yeah, we would love to have you. There are books available in the back for a suggested donation. And then also there's a sign-up sheet. But if you'd like to speak to us, we'd just love to have you.
There's also a small promo video, if we can get that to play, just to show what's going on in this study of Ruth.
I have been loving the book of Ruth for the last 12, 13 years. In fact, I think I grew up on the book of Ruth, hearing about it for the very first time as a little girl. How can we not love a story where an outsider becomes an insider, where somebody with nothing all of a sudden gets everything, where someone from a foreign land becomes part of the covenant community of Israel? We love this story because, yes, it is a romantic story, but what I really am so excited about getting to come back 12 years later to this book is that we see God's redemptive hand. That is not just a story about Ruth and Boaz and Naomi, but it's a story about God's redeeming love for his people. God's redeeming love for the outsider, the vulnerable, the brokenhearted. I love the way that he heals Naomi's heart, how he restores Ruth, how he blesses Boaz. Probably one of my favorite takeaways this time is seeing that in this book, there's really no miracle that happens. There's no burning bush or parting of the Red Sea. What we see is faithful people loving God and loving each other. And in that human interaction, God does miraculous things. And so I love that about this story, because any of us can love God and love people. And of course, we can't forget, just the redemptive hand of God is all over this. So for those who are hurting, for those who feel like they're without hope, we have the hope not only of the God of Israel, but through the person of Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness, I'm so thrilled to be able to bring you the study of Ruth, Loss, Love, and Legacy.
So that study of Ruth is on Wednesday mornings at the same exact time. So when we don't have Refresh, we're in the Mitchell House studying Ruth. But if you can't come Wednesday morning, they're also doing that same study Wednesday evening here at church. So again, there's books on the back table if you're interested, if you just like to flip through it and just say, hey, this might be something I want to do. Maybe this isn't something I want to do. That's okay. Again, we just are glad you guys are here, and we hope to see you next month. So our next Refresh will be something a little different. My team of introverted ladies are so excited that I volunteered them that they are going to be speaking with me up here on this stage. So we are going to have 9 chairs with all of our beautiful faces. So that is myself, Krista Wimbish, that's Lydia Carlino, that is Katie Elder, that's Susan Hudson, that's Lori Sparks, Lynette Whitfield, Haley Wimbish, who am I forgetting? Bobby Kirby, Carly Pruitt. That's all 9 of us. We are going to be having just real table talk with moms. You guys know what you see is what you get with Crystal. It's basically the same thing with the other 8 ladies. They're just a little bit quieter than I am. But we just really want to share our hearts. What works best for us in parenting, what has not worked best for us. Maybe just a little bit insight on teenagers, technology, raising grandkids, because we have a mom in that group that also has grandkids. Between the 9 of us, we have 21 children, 21 kids, 4 grandchildren, and 9 ladies. So I would say we're a pretty big wealth of knowledge there. There's been some fun things, there's been some failures, but we also would like for y'all to come back October 18th. It's not the second Wednesday. It'll actually be the third Wednesday in October. October 18th, 9:30, same place, same time. But we would like for you guys to share maybe a little bit of an idea, or if you have maybe a specific talk or something that you would want us to talk about. There are kind of like survey cards on the table when you guys exit. Please fill that out. Leave it here. We'll be putting something on our Facebook page. We'll be sending out some emails asking you what you guys want us to talk about. Again, we think we got it figured out, but if there's something specific that you want to hear, please share that with us. We would love that. So again, Table Talk with Real Moms, the Refresh Moms. We're going to be up here talking next month, October 18th. We hope to see you guys back. Invite a friend. We're so glad y'all are here. This has been a wonderful morning. I hope you guys have felt refreshed and just enjoyed the morning. Julie, thank you again for being here. I think that's all of our announcements. Is that it, Amy? That is it, my friend. I will close this in prayer. Father, I just thank you so much for this day, God. I thank you for this opportunity just to be here. God, we love you so much. We thank you so much for your grace, for your mercy, and for that you just share your love that you give upon us. God, I hope that we can share that love with our families. I hope that we can feel refreshed and feel just rejuvenated as we leave here, God. We thank you for Julie and her heart for young moms. I thank you for what she shared with us. I pray that we can take all these things and just share them with our families, share them with ourselves, share them with you, God, because you are ultimately always there with us in our quiet time. So thank you so much. We give you all the honor, the glory, and the praise, and we just thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.